this class that was discussing a case on my country. So you understand, I'm very familiar with that. Certainly, I'm going to speak from the perspective of the person who lives every day and has lived all this you are talking about. But I'm also appreciative of the fact that a lot of good ideas, suggestions have been coming out of your study of the case, and certainly I was taking note, so I was learning a lot from the discussions, and I hope we can integrate that in what we have been doing for our country's development. And let me start off on a light note by saying somebody who said we need to be more friendly to the Belgians and the French and so on. I welcome that. I think they need to be more friendly to us too. So we will be able to benefit together if we make those steps forward. Let me start by saying that the story of Rwanda is really, well, it has a long history, but I think from the perspective of this discussion, I think we were more forward-looking in terms of where we are going, and though not forgetting where we are coming from. And it's a story of turning around things, turning around a country, just like a business. Or in other aspects, it is creating things anew altogether, in our case, because if you look back 16 years ago, inheriting a totally devastated country and trying to make sense of things and being able to move forward certainly creates unique difficulties. But as we have discovered in the discussions, it's not just about difficulties or problems, it's also about opportunities. It's about being innovative about ways of moving forward and finding a way to where we want to be. And we have to start from somewhere, because at this point, the way we've been managing our country, we have confronted a problem where almost everything has been a priority. So you've got to sort out things, at least in some order. Otherwise, you end up trying to do everything and not doing much in the end. So we had to first deal with that situation where the priorities were too many. They were competing. We could not do one and not do the other. So sorting out that certainly creates a problem of its own. But starting from somewhere means, first of all, dealing with the people, even before you start dealing with things. Because the people of our country are the ones directly responsible for this turnaround and moving in the direction you want to move in. And that means you have to deal with mindset, with the thinking, with making people understand that after all they are going to be the larger part of the solution. And we have had a big share in terms of thinking that other people have been responsible for our problems. And we had to start by saying, fair enough. there are so many people, other people who have been responsible for our problems. But we cannot be trapped in that. In any case, it doesn't provide us with a solution. It probably would compound the problem. So, and therefore, we had to convince ourselves that we had the solution with us, even if, certainly, very importantly, we get support of others, like we have certainly benefited from the support of different countries, and you think you talked about that to a large extent. So this mobilization campaign of our people, of our population, to understand that it is our problem, it doesn't matter who contributed to that problem, whether outsiders or ourselves, and to what measure, and the combination of both, and so on and so forth. But we had to start with ourselves that we are a big part of the solution. It's our problem, and we have to make sure that we play a part in this. So the mobilization campaign started on this line, and it has, in the end, proved to be right, because it has drawn in everybody's effort, everybody's resources, and we have moved ahead and done what we have done to be able to move forward. And that has been a combination of the Rwandans' efforts and then outsiders' support. As I will come probably back to it on the question of ODA, which you talked about. It's a problem, it's a solution. Depends on how you approach it. I probably talk about it. So in dealing with the minds and hearts of our people and making them part of the solution, and all the processes that we were engaged in, follows building of institutions. We had to build the institutions. Again, it was very well elaborated in the discussion and the case you were discussing. And then there comes in the policies and different programs that we had to introduce, and also be innovative about how we deal with the different problems. Innovations. We are not limited, and we are not limiting ourselves to just saying this is how, when you are faced with this problem, this is how you do it, because in many cases we actually found there wasn't going to be a textbook from which to borrow lessons about how to deal with some of our problems. Some of our problems were unique, they were specific, they were probably much bigger than we could apply some of the things we know and get a solution. One example, quickly, is you have heard about, this is related with justice problems, gacaca courts. And of course, we have been blamed for saying we are applying something that is unknown to many people. Gacaca, what is gacaca? What does it mean? How this does not meet the international standards, because we don't know it, and so on and so forth. True, on one part. On the other part, not very true, because it was the only thing that could give us a solution. Because when people came up and said, well, you can't do this, we don't understand it, nobody knows what it is, it doesn't meet the international standards, and we said, fine. For a moment, can you tell us what you think we should do to deal with such a big problem of bringing to justice and allowing reconciliation to take place of millions of people, hundreds of thousands or million or so people? They had no solution. So you say, well, then can we proceed with our way of doing things as long as it gives us a solution and as long as we put in safeguards to make sure that it doesn't lead to other problems. So a conversation would always go on with some of these innovations, and later on we would always be able to move forward. Because if we had waited to borrow from the what everybody is used to do, or what is written in the books, then maybe we wouldn't have got a solution to some of our problems. So we succeeded because we did what is generally known as the conventional way of doing things, but also applying some of the things that were simply out of innovations and borrowing from our traditions and culture and the different values associated with that to find a way forward. And that is very much closely related to some of the things you mentioned earlier on of forging a national identity, building one Rwanda, and doing it in such a way that you are not denying people to express themselves as being different from the other, but rather reminding them that while you are different from the other, you have no right to deny the other their own right. You have no right to, based on how different you are from me, to deny my right. So we are Rwandans basically and first and foremost, but there may be differences of different kinds. We allow those to be expressed, but expressed within the framework where you preserve the national identity and security and rights of everyone. This is what we have emphasized once again.